because of the heavy rains and just the currents and the winds and everything, it's blown the runoff from the rivers into the islands, into the the eastern section of western Lake Erie. That's our tourism haven. That's our hub of our tourism. And it's really sad to see that they have this much algae this early, because Toledo, we went out to the intake just now, and compared to last year, there is no comparison. There's some algae there. It didn't go all the way down the water column. It was dispersed pretty much. Last year it was putrid and ugly and green. This year it's at the islands and the tourism area on the beaches and things. It's all a matter of rain and wind and temperature, and so that's what really drives runoff, obviously. But the good news is Lake Erie is very resilient, and this portion of the lake turns over every 30 to 50 days. You stop the sources, we get a clean lake. As far as reduction in sources, we're not even identifying the sources. We're not showing where the nutrients are coming from. We know the loads, we know the general categories, which is, of course, fertilizer, manure, wastewater, stormwater, filling septic systems, lawn fertilizers, all of those sources. We know what they are generically, but as far as saying this much comes from where, we do not know that. And that's not what happens in the rest of the country when they have problems like this. They go under the Clean Water Act, they do something called a total maximum daily load, which identifies sources and amounts. And then every year you have a plan, and then you determine if that plan is progressing or you're falling backwards. We don't have that kind of data and information to hold everybody accountable. What happens with fertilizer is the agronomic rate for phosphorus per acre is 40 parts per million. And that's how much phosphorus you need to grow the best crop, okay, up to 40 parts. And the farmers seem very comfortable with that number. But for manure, it's 150 parts per million, and that's far in excess. And the way it's been described to me by the farmers is it's like a sponge, and it's saturated, and after 150, she just rolls off when it rains and goes into the water. That's unacceptable, any more than we could put human waste on the land and let it run off. Animal waste is no different, and we've got to get our arms around this problem. What I've seen through the years, I've asked people, Ohio, Michigan, federal government, for the total maximum daily load to identify the sources and amounts, and they don't seem to want to do it. And because then everybody gets held accountable, and then you see where real action takes place. So I think the land is winning, where they just kind of want to do best management practices, not know how much is being reduced, kind of snipping at the edges, as I call it. The ban on frozen ground is great, but if you're putting manure on the ground at 4 times the fertilizer need, that's a problem. And those things need to be called out and addressed. And we don't seem to have the political will to help the water like we do the political will to sustain the land.